Hello, my name is Warren Canning. I am the Chairman and Nifty Program Lead of Defence Innovations Proprietary Limited. We have developed the Non-Intrusive Flight Test Instrumentation System, or NIFTY, which has made an impact on the market because it removes the need for dedicated flight test platforms. Using NIFTY, an operational fleet aircraft can be rapidly and cost-effectively instrumented for flight trials, and then decommissioned and handed back to the fleet in orders of magnitude less time than was previously required. NIFTY is a wireless system, so the sensors simply stick onto the external surface of the platform, which can be done very rapidly, and then they wirelessly communicate back to the data acquisition system. In addition, that system then communicates to an iPad mini that the flight test engineer or the test pilot wear, so they can configure the system in flight, they can visualise all the data in flight. NIFTY is different to previous systems in that they were wired. NIFTY is a wireless system, and you have wireless sensors that are either triaxial accelerometers or strain gauge interfaces, and in the future a whole range of other sensors, and these simply stick on to the external surface of the aircraft. And so instead of having to spend hours, days, weeks running wires through the aeroplane to where you want sensors, you can just walk around the platform, stick these on, and they wirelessly communicate to the data acquisition gateway. The gateway then wirelessly communicates to an iPad mini that's worn by the flight test engineer or the test pilot. And so in flight, you can totally change the configuration of the system, and you can visualise all of the data being received from the sensors. Installing and decommissioning NIFTY is very rapid. In the proof of concept trial that we did back in 2015, we instrumented a PC-9 in 1 hour with a dozen triaxial accelerometers and the data acquisition gateway. More recently, we've instrumented a RAF Hornet, a classic F-18. Because that was a supersonic trial, it took a little bit longer to instrument because we had to use different methodologies to attach the sensors to the aircraft than what we used in the proof of concept trial. But nonetheless, we instrumented that platform in 4 hours. We undertook 2 supersonic sorties and we decommissioned the platform in 45 minutes and handed it back to the squadron for an operational flight that afternoon. The launch customer for NIFTY is the Royal Australian Air Force, and in fact the Royal Australian Air Force and DST have been integral to the development of NIFTY from day one. However, NIFTY has a much broader application than just military flight test. Markets would include people like flight test schools or test pilot schools like Empire Test Pilot School, National Test Pilot School, etc. Aircraft manufacturers, be it the Boeings and Airbuses of this world, right down to the Gibbs Aeros in Victoria, and other users, including flight test organisations for various civil and military applications. Many innovations unfortunately fail because the innovator doesn't listen to the customer. They have an idea and they pursue that idea without realising that the customer's requirements is over here, a little bit away from where their idea concept went initially. We were very careful through this process to involve the customer in a true collaboration. So at all stages of the process, we sat down with the customer, we sat down with their engineers, with their flight test engineers, with their test pilots, and said, what would the ideal 21st century flight test system look like, and how would you use it? So throughout the process, the customer actually guided this development, as did the Defence Science and Technology Group, the old DSTO, so that we were able to develop a system that satisfied both the customer's needs but also the DST needs as the party that would support the customer in flight test and do a lot of the data analysis coming out of the flight test. So we believe we have a system that is very much focused on the end user, as opposed to what an innovator may think the system should look like.